My name is Martha Caldwell, and I am here to share with you an experience that completely transformed how I see life, death, and eternity. Before that day, my life was ordinary. A retired school teacher in Ohio, living out quiet days with my cat Jasper and enjoying the stillness of a small-town life. But on the morning of June 14th, 2023, my heart stopped for 29 minutes. During that time, I experienced something so extraordinary, so real, that it felt more tangible than anything I've ever known on Earth. What I witnessed was not a dream or a hallucination. It was a divine encounter where I was shown profound truths about heaven, our loved ones who've passed on, and the eternal work of God's kingdom. This testimony is not about me. It's about a message I've been entrusted to share. A glimpse into the unseen realm that I believe will forever change how you view life and death. It began like any other day. I brewed my morning coffee, admired the golden sunrise peeking through the blinds, and mentally planned my errands. I'd always been a morning person, finding peace in those quiet hours before the world stirred. That morning, I felt an odd heaviness in my chest, but I brushed it off, thinking it was nothing serious. I walked to the kitchen to refill my cup, and that's when it happened. A sharp, searing pain shot through my chest, stealing my breath. My vision blurred, and I collapsed. Later, I learned I'd suffered a massive heart attack. My neighbor, hearing Jasper meowing incessantly, found me unconscious and called 911. By the time the paramedics arrived, my heart had already stopped. They worked tirelessly to revive me, but my body remained unresponsive. What no one could see was that during those 29 minutes, I wasn't gone. I was somewhere far more real than this world. The transition was instant. One moment, I was lying on my kitchen floor, and the next, I was surrounded by the purest light I'd ever seen. It wasn't like sunlight or the artificial glow of a lamp. This light was alive, warm, and filled with an indescribable love. I felt no pain, no fear, only a profound sense of peace that wrapped around me like a comforting embrace. I realized I was moving through what seemed like a tunnel, though it wasn't dark or foreboding. Colors beyond earthly imagination swirled around me, vivid hues of gold, blue, and emerald that shimmered and danced. Music filled the air, but it wasn't like any music I'd ever heard. It was a celestial harmony, as though the universe itself was singing praises to God. It resonated in my very being, not just heard but felt, and it carried me closer to the source of the light. And then I saw him, Jesus Christ. He stood at the end of the tunnel, surrounded by a radiance that seemed to illuminate everything around him. His presence was overwhelming, not in fear but in awe. His eyes, oh, his eyes, they held the deepest love I had ever known. They weren't just looking at me, they were looking into me, knowing every detail of my life, every triumph, every failure, and yet loving me completely. It was a love so profound that it filled every empty space in my soul. He smiled, and in that smile, I felt as though every burden I'd carried in life had melted away. "Welcome, Martha," he said, his voice resonating not just in my ears, but in every fiber of my being. It was both gentle and powerful, carrying an authority that left no room for doubt. "You have much to see, for there is work to be done. My people must understand what lies ahead." Much. As Jesus took my hand, the scenery around us transformed. I was no longer in the tunnel, but standing in a realm that defies earthly description. Heaven wasn't the passive, cloud-filled eternity I had imagined. Instead, it was vibrant, alive, and filled with purpose. The air itself seemed to hum with divine energy. The colors were richer than anything I'd seen on Earth. The light brighter but never harsh. I could feel life radiating from every blade of grass, every ripple in the crystal clear streams, and every soul that moved with joyful purpose. "My Martha," Jesus said, his voice tender yet commanding, "you've often wondered what your loved ones are doing here. Many on earth imagine heaven as a place of rest, but that rest is not idleness. It is active, fulfilling, and eternal work in my kingdom." He gestured with his hand, and suddenly I saw countless souls moving about with intention and joy. Some were creating, building what looked like magnificent structures, their hands glowing with divine light. Others were worshiping in song, their melodies so perfect that they seemed to weave into the fabric of existence. I saw others who appeared to be learning, seated in what looked like vast fields of light, their faces radiant with awe and understanding. These souls, Jesus explained, are preparing for the new heaven and the new earth. They are growing, creating, and fulfilling the roles they were designed for. His words filled me with wonder. I realized that every soul in heaven had been uniquely crafted for specific tasks that brought them unimaginable joy. But then he showed me something more. I saw groups of souls bowing their heads, their hands clasped in prayer. Light poured from their forms, streaming upward as if connecting heaven to earth. "These are intercessors," Jesus said. "They pray not as you do on earth, bound by time and understanding, but with a perfect alignment to my will. Their prayers strengthen those on earth, guiding them, encouraging them, and helping them find their way." Tears welled in my eyes as I thought of the countless times I'd felt inexplicable peace during life's darkest moments. Now I understood. They had been praying for me all along. Jesus continued to show me the work of heaven. I noticed something that caught my attention. In the midst of the joy and purpose, there were some souls who seemed weighed down. Their light dimmed slightly as they looked back toward earth. I turned to Jesus, my heart heavy. "Why do they seem troubled?" I asked. He nodded slowly, becoming conflicted. Jesus looked at me with deep compassion. "These are souls whose loved ones on earth are consumed by grief. Their sorrow, while natural, has turned into a refusal to trust in my plan." He gestured, and I saw a woman on earth sitting alone in her living room. Her face was tear-streaked, and she clutched a photograph of her husband, who had recently passed. She spoke aloud, her voice breaking. "Why did you leave me? I can't do this without you." I then saw her husband's soul in heaven. He was radiant, yet his light flickered with concern. "She doesn't understand," Jesus explained. "Her grief binds her, and in doing so, she struggles to let her heart align with my will. Her husband loves her deeply, but he cannot fulfill his purpose in heaven while she is trapped by despair." Tears filled my eyes as I realized how interconnected our lives on earth are with the work of heaven. Jesus placed his hand on my shoulder, and I felt his deep love for both the grieving woman and her husband. "Tell them, Martha," he said, "that grief is not meant to imprison them. It is a season, not a lifetime. Their loved ones in heaven are not lost. They are alive and engaged in work far greater than they ever imagined. When grief becomes trust, their hearts will open to my peace, and they will sense their loved one's joy instead of their absence." Jesus then turned my attention to something incredible, a vast network of light connecting heaven and earth. These streams of light shimmered and pulsed, flowing upward from earth in countless directions. I watched in awe as prayers from earth ascended like golden threads, intertwining with the work being done in heaven. Each thread seemed alive, carrying a deep sense of hope, faith, and longing. "Do you see this, Martha?" Jesus asked. "These are the prayers of my people. Every sincere prayer creates a connection between heaven and earth. Nothing prayed in faith is ever wasted. He pointed to one particularly bright stream of light. It rose from the bedside of a mother praying for her sick child. As the light reached heaven, I saw angels and souls moving to respond. They worked together, their efforts perfectly coordinated, to guide events on earth in ways aligned with God's will. Prayer isn't just words, Jesus continued. It's an act of trust that allows my grace to flow more freely into the world. When my people pray, they open doors for heaven's influence to touch earth in miraculous ways. My heart swelled with emotion as I realized the immense power of prayer, not as a one-sided plea, but as a collaboration between heaven and earth. Then, he showed me something more. I saw moments of worship on earth, small church gatherings, families singing together, even individuals lost in prayer at home. Each act of worship created what Jesus called windows of glory, where heaven's light poured down and mingled with earthly realities. I watched as these moments of genuine worship lifted burdens, healed hearts, and strengthened the faith of those who participated. "This is why worship matters, Martha," Jesus said, his voice filled with warmth. "It's not just for those who sing, it's for all of heaven and earth. When my people worship in spirit and truth, they align their hearts with mine, allowing my presence to transform their lives." I realized then that worship wasn't just a practice, it was a supernatural connection that brought heaven's reality closer to earth. Jesus then led me to a place that defied comprehension. It was vast, filled with activity, and radiated an energy I can only describe as divine purpose. "This," he said, "is where my children participate in the great work of redemption." I saw souls working in perfect harmony, each carrying out tasks that reflected their unique gifts and experiences. There were those who seemed to be preparing magnificent structures, their work glowing with heavenly light. Others were crafting what looked like beautiful pieces of art, their creations radiating joy and worship. "What are they doing, Lord?" I asked, unable to take my eyes off the intricate beauty of their work. "They are preparing the new heaven and the new earth," Jesus said. "Every soul here has a role, and every role is an expression of my love and creativity. Their work is not burdensome, it's an act of pure joy and fulfillment. They are more alive now than they ever were on earth." I then saw a group of souls teaching others, sharing divine wisdom that deepened their understanding of God's love and His plans. Jesus explained that this was part of heaven's growth, a place where knowledge and purpose expanded eternally. "Heaven is not static, Martha," he said. "It's dynamic, alive, and always reflecting my glory. My children here continue to grow, to create, and to prepare for the fullness of my kingdom." But then Jesus showed me something deeply moving. I saw souls who had suffered greatly on earth, those who had endured immense loss, pain, or hardship. They now shone with a unique radiance, their heavenly assignments reflecting the redemption of their earthly struggles. One soul, a woman who had battled a lifetime of loneliness, was now surrounded by others, leading them in a community of love and belonging. Another, who had been a child lost to illness, was helping to prepare places for other children who would one day arrive in heaven. "Nothing is wasted," Jesus said, his eyes full of love. "Every tear, every trial, every moment of faith on earth is woven into my eternal plan. Those who suffered much are now filled with greater joy, and their work in heaven reflects the beauty of their redemption." I was overwhelmed by the harmony and perfection of it all. Every soul, every task, every moment was part of a grand design that displayed God's love and wisdom. And I realized that our lives on earth, with all their struggles and joys, are just the beginning of something far greater. As Jesus continued to guide me, He showed me something that deeply touched my heart. I saw souls in heaven who had been directly impacted by prayers from earth. These souls had once endured unimaginable hardships, poverty, illness, betrayal, but now they radiated with peace and purpose. Each of them was using their experiences to influence events on earth in ways aligned with God's will. "Martha," Jesus said, his voice both tender and firm, "I want you to see how the trials of life on earth are not meaningless. Every difficulty, every pain, when surrendered to me, becomes part of a greater story of redemption." He then showed me scenes from my own life, moments of heartbreak, frustration, and doubt. I saw how, even in those times when I felt most abandoned, God was weaving a tapestry of purpose that I couldn't yet see. I watched as angels and departed souls worked in harmony, directing streams of light toward people struggling on earth. These streams represented grace, guidance, and moments of divine intervention. Jesus explained, "When my children on earth choose to trust me in their darkest hours, they open the door for my power to move in ways they can't imagine. Their faith creates ripples that extend far beyond their lives." He then directed my attention to families on earth who were praying for loved ones trapped in addiction, despair, or unbelief. I saw how their prayers created pathways for God's grace to flow into those lives. In some cases, the impact was immediate, a sudden change of heart, a miraculous healing. In others, the prayers laid a foundation for transformations that would unfold years later. "Time works differently here," Jesus said, "but every prayer is heard and answered in the way that best serves my eternal purposes." I saw how earthly trials, though painful, were shaping people's character and preparing them for their heavenly roles. "Tell them, Martha," Jesus urged, "that their struggles are not the end of their story. They are being refined, strengthened, and prepared for a purpose far greater than they can imagine. When they see things from my perspective, they will understand that nothing is wasted." And Jesus showed me something that filled me with awe, a glimpse of the future, when heaven and earth will be united in perfect harmony. The scene was so glorious that words fail to capture its beauty. I saw a new earth, vibrant and alive, free from pain, sorrow, and death. The air itself seemed to sing with joy, and every part of creation radiated God's love. "This is what I am preparing for my children," Jesus said, his voice filled with anticipation. "A place where every tear will be wiped away, where every wound will be healed, and where my people will dwell with me forever." He then showed me a vision of a great gathering, a multitude of souls from every nation, tribe, and language, standing together in unity. They were singing a song of praise that echoed across the cosmos, their voices blending with the worship of angels. It was a celebration of God's victory over sin, death, and all the forces of darkness. In the midst of this scene, I saw families reunited, friends embracing, and communities rejoicing. There was no division, no jealousy, no regret, only perfect love and joy. Jesus turned to me and said, "This is the hope I want my people to carry with them. No matter how hard life gets, no matter how dark the days may seem, this is what awaits those who remain faithful to me." He then showed me something deeply personal, my own family, gathered in this new creation. I saw my parents, my husband, my children, all radiant with joy. I realized that every moment of faith, every act of love, and every choice to trust God was leading toward this eternal reunion. As the vision began to fade, I felt a deep longing to stay in that perfect place. But Jesus gently placed his hand on my shoulder and said, "Martha, your work on earth is not yet finished. What you have seen must be shared so that others may find hope, strength, and purpose in me." I felt myself being drawn back through the tunnel of light, and the next thing I knew, I was gasping for air in a hospital room. Doctors and nurses surrounded me, their faces filled with shock and relief. They later told me that I had been clinically dead for nearly 30 minutes, a time frame they couldn't explain, given my complete recovery. But I knew the truth. I had been given a second chance, a mission to fulfill. Since that day, my life has been transformed. I no longer fear death because I know it is not the end, but a transition to something far greater. I live each day with the knowledge that heaven is real, that Jesus is actively working in our lives, and that every moment on earth has eternal significance. If you're watching this, I want you to know that you are not alone. No matter what you're going through, Jesus sees you, loves you, and has a purpose for your life. Your struggles are shaping you for something beautiful, and your prayers are making a difference in ways you can't yet see. Heaven is not a far-off dream. It's closer than you think. And one day, if you place your trust in Jesus, you too will experience the joy, purpose, and glory of God's eternal kingdom. Until that day, live with hope, knowing that the greatest wonders are yet to come.